How's it going, everybody? David Cloninger with the Charleston Post and Courier here and the Gamecocks Now newsletter, welcoming you to another edition of Countdown to Kickoff. We're going to wrap up the Vanderbilt win, look ahead to the weekend trip to Texas A&M, and then talk about the career of one of the most underrated South Carolina receivers that's ever played. Please welcome my guest, a USC receiver from 2009 to 10, still a school record holder for catches in a single game with 14, a veteran of pro football in the NFL and the Canadian Football League. And the best thing I can say about him, he's from Rock Hill, South Carolina, as well as I am. Tori Gurley. How you doing, Tori?
Man, David, thanks for having me on. I'm extremely excited about this. I'm ready to get rolling.
It's great to see you, my man. Seems like just yesterday we were cutting it up on the practice field, doesn't it?
Man, it went by so fast. Like literally, being a player and wearing a helmet or coming back in the offseason, being in the NFL and talking to you. And now I'm an old guy getting ready to have my first child like any day now. My wife is due. So
man, congratulations on that, man. That's terrific. I just had mine. He's 21 months old now. So yeah, we got that going for us too. We'll have them play together sometime.
Yes, exactly. Congrats to you and your family.
I appreciate that, Tori, but let's get into it, man. I know you still keep up with South Carolina football. Last week, they won the game. They beat Vanderbilt. It was not very pretty to watch. It was downright ugly to watch. But Tori, just your general overall impressions of this team so far. I mean, they're 4-3, which I think record-wise, probably most people would think they would be at this point. But from how they execute in games, specifically offensively, what have you seen from watching?
I'm seeing a team that's still trying to get the chemistry down. Marcus Satterfield, he's still trying to figure it out. You can tell that all this is new to him. Coach Beamer, his body language on the sideline as a head coach, someone that all eyes are on him every play. And sometimes he responds to things like a fan would. And I think everybody is just getting a feel for what's going on. What I am proud of the guys is they're not laying down. In some of those games we've seen in the past, when teams jump out the leads, it gets ugly. But to see the guys continue to fight, play with pride, eventually the recruits and everything else is going to fall in place where they get some guys that help jumpstart the program. But as of now, I'm definitely excited to see like how these players continue to develop. And I'm all about, getting the best ball players the ball, man. If it's Kevin Harris, if it's Juju, if it's Marshawn, I know the injury bug has been biting us, but man, we got to feed those guys. And I'm a wide receiver. And whenever I see Josh Vann go up and make plays, it puts a big smile on my face because I know we have the pieces and it's slowly going to come together.
That's one thing, Tori. I mean, obviously injuries have been a big part this week. The big story is that Luke Doty is out for the year with that foot injury and Zeb Noland is back in at starting quarterback. But they had three tailbacks last week, Kevin Harris, Marshawn Lloyd, and Zaquandre White. All three of them got ankle injuries coming into this game. And Juju McDowell, who was suspended last week for an off-the-field issue, will be back this week, but at least he's fully healthy. So I'm with you, man. I just think that, as confusing or as confused as Marcus Satterfield has seemed to be throughout these first 7 games, I think he's just making it too hard. Get the guys the ball in space, and you kind of saw an increased emphasis to do that last week, specifically with Jaheim Bell. Is that what you saw too, Tori?
Man, absolutely. And, hey, I'm going to advocate for Nick Muse, to get his touches. Like, we need help, all hands on deck. So I think with those guys being in a meeting room, sitting back, being able to see the things that they can get better at, and just going out and playing to your strengths. And, I wish nothing but Zeb, nothing but the best, being in this situation where, we're throwing you out in the fire. He was expected to be a coach and now he's a player. So, whatever he can go out and contribute to the team, we're definitely going to need it, and it's going to be appreciated because, it's just a growing process. That's all it is. And we as Gamecock fans, we understand it. Like, we know what we're up against. So, I'm happy we got the win against Vanderbilt, because that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter how ugly it is, as long as it goes down as a W in the win column, that's what matters. But moving forward this week, playing against a team that's somewhat ascending in the right direction, I just want defensively, we need those guys to continue to handle business like they're doing. Let's stay away from the silly penalties. And offensively, if we can get some guys healthy, and get them the ball. Let's just try to grind this game up and make it ugly. The last thing we want to do is try to get in a shootout with the Jimbo Fisher offense that's, scoring at a high clip right now.
Yeah, I don't think South Carolina has the horses to win any kind of shootout, but they got to be able to score more than 21 points. With Zeb Noland from the first 2 games of the season that he started in one, you saw a guy that is not going to lose you the ball game. He's going to take care of the ball. He's going to manage it. His stats are not going to jump off the stage or off the page, but he's going to take care of the ball and get it to where it needs to go. The thing is, Tori, is that Zeb back there, let's just be frank, he can't move. He cannot run out of trouble. I mean, he's just not going to be that kind of guy. Now, that helps simplify the playbook because you're not going to call any designed QB runs like you would if Luke Doty was there. But that also means, well, he shouldn't have to run if you can pass block and if you can run the football. Well, Tori, South Carolina's not been able to do either one of those very well these first 7 games. So what do you think the key to attacking Texas A&M's defense is going to be with Zeb under center?
I would say let's just run the football. Whoever we have, let's simplify it. Instead of trying to be in a shotgun, line up in the I formation, and literally just try to win that time of possession, where we literally just holding the ball and, managing the game, just like somewhat New England is doing with Mac Jones. All his passes, they're not deep down the field. It's keeping it short. We have guys like Nick Muse, the carry on, Josh Van that can, get open one-on-one and just make high percentage throws. And then whenever we do get a chance to make a throw over the top, take a shot, but we're just going to have to, clock control and game manage if we want to keep this a ball game. If we allow Texas A&M to jump out on us, then as you said earlier, we just do not have the horses to put up 35, 40 points because the end zone hasn't been friendly to us this year.
Right. And that's the thing. 2 weeks ago at Tennessee, they switched it up a little bit. Marcus Satterfield started putting the fullback in there a little more, either Trey Jones or Jaheim Bell lining up, and it worked. The running game was working really well, and then they kind of got away from it, and they didn't use it at all last week, which stunned me because they still couldn't run very well. And I thought, well, you're going to have to do that to try to control the clock. Would you think that the fullback would be a little bit more of an option this week, especially knowing you kind of have to run the football if you have any hope of winning this game?
Man, they have a coach in the building by name of Patrick DeMarco. I literally would have him running, have him in practice, have him in drills where literally you have someone that's been in the NFL for 10 years that played fullback. That's a position that's almost extinct, but teams exclusively use it when they know they're struggling on offense. And to have someone of his experience in the building, literally, man, DeMarco was like a Swiss Army knife for us. He was able to play tight end. He played a little bit of he obviously played fullback, put him at running back, and it helped. Like it was one of those things where we had extra protection, and whenever we had 7-man blocking, we had one-on-one on the outside with Alshon or with myself crossing over the middle of the field, and it just made easier throws for Steven.
That's what I was thinking. I can always see DeMarco just kind of bleeding out into coverage, and Steven would hit him 8-10-yard button hook every time, and it would work. And that's what South Carolina needs to do. They have the talent to do that. And then with the offensive line, which has been a struggle all year, those guys have just got to stay in place. It seems to me that they're often shifting the wrong way. They're allowing guys to come free. I mean, I wish I could say it was the first time I'd seen it all year, but last week I remember 2 linemen blocked the same guy. And all of a sudden, Luke was getting bum rushed. Yeah. Just can't have that. I mean, Tori, from a guy who's been there, played college ball, played pro ball, what have you seen with the issues on the offensive line? Why is it this way?
It just seemed like continuity. I don't think those guys communicate enough on the line of scrimmage. It's okay to let everybody know who you got, because I'd rather for us to all be on the same page. But if no one is communicating and you mess around and have 2 players blocking the same guy, it hurts the team. So if it has to be as simple as you pointing out the guy saying, hey, I got number 90, I got number 99, I got David, it's all right. We're all on the same page. We're going to block it, and it gives you a better chance to, get positive yards.
That's one thing a lot of folks have asked me, said, Dave, is Satterfield's offense just too complicated for these guys? And I didn't know what to say early in the year because I don't have a playbook. But, the first couple of games, you couldn't judge too much because they're figuring things out, what works, what doesn't work. The problem is that everything has gotten to game 7 now, and we still don't have a real answer. Now, I will say they had some things happen they didn't expect. They expected Luke Doty to be the guy, and then he wasn't there. Then he was there, but he was hobbled. Kevin Harris has not been himself after offseason back surgery. So that takes away two big pieces of it. That said, you just want to see an offense trying to build an identity, build a rhythm, and try to get into what they are. And they're about to go up against a Texas A&M defense that is going to force them. I remember 2 weeks ago, Tori, A&M beat Alabama. And a big part of that was they were able to harass Bryce Young, Alabama's QB, get him out of the pocket, make him uncomfortable. You remember from that game, what have you seen from A&M's D?
Oh, well, just talking to NFL scouts, they have 3 first-rounders, between the offense and defensive line. So, they're talented. So we're going to have to bring our A game just going against that type of player, consistently. And then Jimbo Fisher, he just understands how to utilize his talent. You're starting to see the tight end making big plays. His name is up on draft boards now where, he's ascending, and literally, they're doing this with a backup. They don't even have their starter in. So that lets you know what type of talent that team has over there. And, our hands are going to be pretty full, but I think if we go in there and keep it competitive, it can give us a shot.
That's one thing, Tori. I think a bright spot of the Gamecocks this year has been their defense. I don't think anybody's really expecting them to play as well as they have. Against Tennessee, they had a bad first quarter, but played pretty well the rest of the game. Last week, they didn't play necessarily bad. They just had 2 big coverage busts where they were playing a quarterback who they had not practiced for because the guy wasn't supposed to play. And then those 2 coverage busts and a bad tackle led to 2 touchdowns. So that's kind of what got them behind. But overall, defense has played pretty well. What have you seen from that side of the ball, and who stood out to you?
Yeah, I'm definitely loving the guys on defense. I think Coach White is the defensive coordinator, correct?
Yes.
I mean, it shows. Like, it's night and day difference between what Muschamp and those guys were doing with Coach White. And, I'm happy to see those guys flying around the field. I'm a big fan of Jalen. I think Jalen Foster is one of those guys that he's making money for himself. I mean, he's Johnny on the spot. I think he's leading the team in tackles and in interceptions. And, that's what you need. And if we can continue to build off that energy and get pressure with Pickens and the guys up front, it gives us a shot because we have a scheme where we're not going to go out and beat ourselves. I think those guys are playing fast because it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and with Texas A&M, he's not new, but they are also playing with their number 2 quarterback, Zach Calzada. They call him the Cuban Missile. He's had that nickname since 8th grade, and just because how powerful of an arm he has. But when he first took over, Tori, it was not good.
No, I watched him against Arkansas, and he was like a deer in headlights. So you can tell he's gotten comfortable because of the confidence that, throwing a couple touchdown passes in some big time games and beating Alabama. I had that experience, and you walk a little taller around campus when you go out and slay the Giants. So, it just lets you know, man, this thing of college football is all, once you string together a couple of wins, man, you see teams just take off.
That's the one thing. I mean, with Calzada, you always want to affect the quarterback, but the main thing now is like he's had 2 games where he's played really well. He's kind of feeling his oats a little bit. Is that where, as a defensive coordinator, Tori, put yourself in that seat, you go into that first series and say, okay, we're going to jailbreak blitz him on the first, second, third, fourth play, even maybe if it costs us a touchdown, just to knock him down and say, we're going to be there all day. Is that something that maybe you would do, or is aggression maybe not the best choice to have here?
No, absolutely. I'm all about setting the tone. And, we saw it we used to do it on offense, but we had the guys on defense that did it as well. And it matters, especially when you're going on the road. It's not like it's a home game where we have Gamecock Nation behind us. Like, literally, we have to go there, and they're called a 12th man for a reason. So we got to find a way to disrupt him and make it hard, because if not, if we get that crowd going and allow those guys, to strike up the band early, it could be a long day for us.
I think I do remember, was it maybe back in 2009 when you guys played Clemson at home and Stephon lined up and on the edge and came in on a corner blitz? Taj Boyd got the ball off, but Stephon drilled him.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember saying afterwards, like, yeah, that was coming in. We wanted to make sure you disrupt them early. Just, even if you're standing over them in the heat of battle, saying all day.
Yeah, it matters. It goes a long way, because they're like, man, these dudes really out here. They're coming for me.
Yeah, and you and I both know Stephon. You played against him and with him, and then you had JD too. And so
Absolutely.
was always going to come in. He had 4 sacks that next year. But it's the A&M game. It's tough. Obviously, South Carolina's never beaten them. It's on the road. It's at night. All those fans are going to be going crazy. What's the main thing to harness if you're the Gamecocks to not get overwhelmed early?
You're going to have to take their best punch, because they're going to have the crowd behind them and they're riding a high. And if you can go out there and if you can respond with, putting 6 on the board or any type of points, your first drive, then that gives you an opportunity to be in the game. But if not, that's where I started to pay attention to body language of the guys on the sideline. And in the years past, guys have put their tail between their legs and pack it in. But what I have been seeing, past 6-7 games, I'm saying guys that, all right, fellas, like, come on, let's get it going. Like we can do this. But offensively, it's going to be on them to go out there and just to put some points on the board so it can give the defense, more morale to go out there and get stops and make it hard for Texas A&M offense.
You mentioned Josh Vann earlier, and he obviously had a really strong start to the season. A big part of that was Zeb Nolan finding him. Zeb, like Luke Doty, is not afraid to throw over the middle of the field. That's where Josh Vann flourishes. He can also get those outside edges. He's been, pretty much scouted by the opponent the past 2 games. They haven't really got him the ball that much. As a receiver, Tori, what do you tell a guy like Josh Vann who's maybe not getting the ball as much and saying, hey, it's not because you're not good. It's just because they've got this other guy that's open. Do you have to keep building his confidence back up?
Yeah, I would get him the ball in space, some bubble screens. I would move him around. I just wouldn't line him up in his traditional, X spot. I would motion him. And we just got to find ways to give him the ball to make him feel like he's a part of the offense, because wide receivers, we do matter, but he's so talented, and you can see the team feed off his energy. Like that Georgia game, some of the catches he made, it inspired everybody else to go out there and do it themselves. So that's where we just got to give him the ball. Him, Nick Muse, to carry on. We got to find a way to get our playmakers the ball in space. And it's as simple as that.
Yep. And that's one thing. I mean, with the receivers, the guys that they pretty much start out there, they're not like you were, where you're a 6'4" guy with a long reach. Still remember that touchdown you caught in the corner against Clemson where Steven just threw it up and you get it tumble into the hedges. They're not going to be able to do that, to say, just put it over his head and he'll reach out and get it, because these guys don't have that same body type. That said, they still can jump and they still can take a hit. How do you design a play to say, okay, if it's one-on-one, I'm just going to have to trust you to get off of your man and I'm going to throw it to you in the stomach? How tough is that to execute when you have that called?
Yeah, when guys are smaller, you have to be extremely accurate with the ball because the margin for error is little to nothing. But I feel like those guys have the abilities to go out and do it. Like if I'm going to bet the house, I'm going to bet it on Josh Vann to go out there and make that play. I mean, the impression he left on me that Georgia game just lets me know he has it in him to be special and he can be 1,000-yard receiver. So we just got to find a way to scheme him up and get him the ball.
Now, they do have one guy who can do that in E.J. Jenkins. He should be a bigger part of the game plan. I think everybody knows that. For some reason, they haven't been able to get him on the field as much or get the ball to him when he is on the field. But he's got a 6'7" with a whole big reach, Tori. I mean, how vital is it to say, listen, even if you're not really going to be a throw down field kind of quarterback, you've got to get that guy involved. How much could he help this offense?
Man, a lot. 6'7", athletic. I watched him, make plays in the middle of the field. We just got to consistently just get him the ball. And we literally could come out in 2 tight ends and 2 receivers and 1 running back. And I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are making a living out of it. Tiger personnel, or 12 personnel. I feel like we can do it ourselves because we have that type of talent, and the concepts are not that hard. I mean, it's just simple high-low concepts, and you just keep it simple for Zeb to go back there and get the ball to the playmaker.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, there were 2 plays last week that stood out to me that's kind of put the whole offense into a nutshell this year. First play, Luke Doty lines up. He's got Kevin Harris to his right, Marshawn Lloyd to his left. They're both stacked out of there and like, okay, 2 running backs. The give is to Josh Vann coming on the end around to the right. Well, nobody blocks for him out there, so he gets cut off. He tries to reverse it. He's trying to make a play, gets taken down for a 7-yard loss. And I'm like, why do you need to be cute there? Just line up and run the ball and be simple. Next play, what do they do? Line up tight end inside, Jaheim Bell. Go straight down, go route, not even kind of misdirection. Hit him in stride. He fights off his man, touchdown. I'm like, I know how elementary it sounds because you can't do that every time. But, Tori, why can't they do that every time?
Keep it simple. Some of these offensive coordinators, they want to leave their mark on a game by, right. How Steve Spurrier would, or, Steve Sarkisian, or these great play callers. But at the end of the day, when you're dealing with a average team, we can't afford the luxury to just, have a gimmick play here and there. Like, we literally just have to, keep it simple so guys can go out and execute and play fast, because the last thing you want to do is lose yards or get somebody hurt because you have them doing things that they're not accustomed to doing.
Right. Texas A&M going to be a real tough matchup to win. I don't think many people expect South Carolina to turn this into a win. The good news is that things change during the season. So I came into this year thinking, well, it's possible they could have 6 wins after Vanderbilt. It's possible. That's good because they won't win one of their final 5. Well, they've got 4 wins after Vanderbilt. This one is probably not going to be a win, but the final 4 games, Auburn, Florida, Missouri, Clemson, those don't look unwinnable right now. So South Carolina is probably not going to happen for them this weekend, but it could. And then those next 4 games after a bye week, Tori, I think that this season's still wide open in terms of getting to a bowl game. What do you think?
I think we beat the 2 Tiger teams, Missouri and Clemson. Clemson do not look like a top 10 program over there. And, I think they're starting to come back down to earth. And this could be a year where, if the guys really have school pride and they want to go out and finish the season with the bang, if they can get Missouri, and then, we put it all on that Clemson game, that's like that incentive to where if they win and get them in a bowl, we can get to 6, and we would greatly appreciate that, because this has been a long time since we beat those guys in orange.
That's one thing too. And I think that, I speak for a lot of USC fans, maybe not all of them, but I'm thinking, hey man, any year you beat Clemson is a good year. You could lose every other game, but if you win that one at the end, you're going to be remembered. Everything's going to be good, but still a lot to go before we determine that. And now it's time. I'd like to get to the favorite part of these segments. Tori, let's talk about you and your career. For any of you who listen who don't know, Tori was a standout athlete at Rock Hill High School. I'll forgive him for that, as I'm a Northwestern Trojan, but that's beside the point. But Tori, now you won a basketball and a football state championship, but it was not in the same year. It was in 2 different.
Yes, sir. 2005 and 2006.
That's right. I remember being on the court when you guys won it in basketball down in Columbia. But you played a lot of sports at Rock Hill. You excelled at both. Wanted to stick with football, but you were a standout basketball player. Why don't you tell the audience about the time you scrimmaged with all the North Carolina Tar Heels?
Yeah. So, I committed to North Carolina once upon a time, and I was in a gym at Charlotte Country Day. And there, at the time, the University of North Carolina was having a basketball camp there. Wes Miller, he was having his camp in the Charlotte area, and they had all the players there in attendance. And there was 9 guys on the floor, and I just so happened to be there. I was dropping off one of my cousins, and they needed an extra guy to come out and play. I just so happened to have on my gear and went out there, and the rest is history. All those guys at North Carolina, I ran right through them. It was just one of those things. It was destined, and I had a great showing, and from there it led to me being on the Zoom call now. Ended up getting a scholarship to prep school. Went and handled business in prep school because I was academically ineligible. Once I went up there, changed my GPA and my SAT score. Coming out of prep school, I had offers from Auburn, Virginia Tech, and South Carolina. And Coach Spurrier ended up talking me to coming down to South Carolina just because I was hanging out with Melvin Ingram and Captain Monterland and those guys, Sidney Rice. And, I realized, I was like, this is an opportunity where I can play at home and help this program. And it was the best decision of my life. I ended up meeting, all my best friends down there. And, my mother got to watch me play, and we beat Alabama, and I never lost to Clemson. So that is my story. I know what it's like to beat the #1 team in the country, and I never lost to the guys in orange.
Yeah. And once you got here, you were able to play. For those of you that don't know, the NCAA was up to its usual foolishness when it came to Tori's test score, but I was doing all those stories back then, constantly checking in. But I think I remember, Tori, weren't you about to pack up and go to maybe Georgia military when they finally called and said, hey, wait, it came through, you're good, and go on?
Yes, it was dark times. Like I never forget. I was on the phone with Robbie Lyles. Everybody was moved into the dorm, and I was waiting around. I had to go back home, and I ended up staying with a friend in Columbia instead. And I just waited around, and finally, I got that call from Robbie, and school was starting, so I automatically had the red shirt. And Ron Cooper came to me. He was like, "Look, we need some help on defense. If you want to, we know you can play defensive back." And I looked him in the eye and I told him, I was like, "Coach, I'm a receiver. I'm one of the best receivers here. And given the opportunity, I promise you, I make the most out of it." And, for a defensive coach, for the guy that recruited me, because, Spurrier Jr. had his guys, they had the guys where they went out and signed, but for Ron Cooper and Tyrone Nix to allow me to work on my craft, while I was redshirting, and they understood, like, man, this kid is talented. And I'll never forget, we had our first inter-squad scrimmage. We called it Monday Night Football. And, I went out there and made plays, and Coach Spurrier's like, no, you're not playing defense. Come on over here. They switched my number, and the rest is history. I ended up being a starter for the next few years while I was there. And, I was able to teach Alshon, and we really, we embraced bully ball. It was the first time where Coach Spurrier had 6'5" guys all across the field. It was Alshon Jeffrey, Jason Barnes, DL Moore, myself. The only little guy we had that had a big heart was Ace Sanders. That was like our little brother. So, but I was one of the guys that was very instrumental when it came to being outspoken and just being a blue collar type player. And I felt like that's why the fans loved me. It was because I was a guy that every play I played it like it was my last, because South Carolina gave me such a great opportunity to be on a major platform, for me to get my degree, and for me to make money as a pro athlete. I'm forever indebted to that university.
2010 season at Vanderbilt, you caught 14 passes in one game in a win over Vandy. And that means you share a record with Zola Davis, Kenny McKinley, Debo Samuel, and Brian Edwards. Now, I'm not going to say that you're the best of those guys, but what do you think?
I'm going to go with me every time. I got a record that some of those, my last year at South Carolina, I didn't drop a pass, 44 consecutive catches. But no, I respect those players. They're great. Statistically, they put up some crazy numbers. I played 2 years and I was gone. I was one of these people before the NIL. I said, I got to go make me some money. So if I can make $1 million playing football with a college degree, I'm fine. Like, I can manage the rest of my lifestyle. So, but I'm happy. Like, I learned so much from all those players, from even guys after, like watching Debo Samuel, develop and grow. I remember when this guy was on a scooter because he was hurt all the time, and, he had different injuries, or when things with Alshon, like I remember when Alshon, his first day in practice, or, being out there with Garcia, and watch how these guys, just grew and developed and became household names, the Stephon Gilmores, the Pat DeMarcos. Like, we had 30 NFL guys on one roster, even our kickers and punters were in the NFL, Spencer Lannon and Ron Sucker was still kicking. So, it's the glory days. And, whenever I see them, it's all love. And I definitely appreciate, the fans, because they made it that way.
And Tori, you had your pro football career at a couple of standout seasons in Canada and a season with the Browns here in the States. And now what are you up to back home? You're helping out some younger players, aren't you?
Absolutely. So I transitioned into television. I remember reaching out to you. You were one of the first people that I told once I was retiring, hey, how do I get into television?
Right.
Teach me. And you said, Tori, you're a natural, just continue to do what you've been doing. You're friendly with the camera. So, I was working at, Fox Sports and ESPN, and I'm still doing stuff with Fox as we speak, still under contract with them. And I decided to get into recruiting because I had a parent reach out to me a while back, and they're like, can you help my son with recruiting? And I made 2 or 3 calls, and just like that, the kid picked up a Power 5 offer. And the light bulb went off, and I was like, you know what? These kids need guidance, because it's one or two things. Parents, you can't Google or ask Siri how recruiting works. And if you're sitting up in the bleachers just taking advice from a parent who doesn't know what's going on, the blind leading the blind. So I've been blessed to be on both sides. I can tell you what the recruiting boards look like, and also can tell you how you can get yourself on the recruiting board, and how to keep that scholarship or earn it. So it all made sense. Everything fell into place. And we humbly started with like 2 or 3 kids, and it grew from 3 to 125 like overnight. And like I said, currently I have the #1 player overall in 2024, Jaden Davis at Catawba Ridge High School. His family has been a major blessing because they allow me to guide, and they take my advice. They work with me. We work together, and that's why Jaden is getting the success and the accolades that's coming his way, because everything is calculated. We know exactly what these coaches are looking for, and how to position ourselves to be the #1 overall player. And like I said, I have so many NFL kids, like guys who I'm fans of, who reach out to me to ask them for recruiting help because they just want to be dad. They don't want to have to deal with, chasing these coaches down, or, just the process of recruiting. So, being on this side, being able to, help these parents, man, has been a tremendous blessing. And literally go to torigurley.com. If you have a son, a nephew, or anything about recruiting, reach out, fill out the questionnaire, and my wife and I will reach out to you. We'll get back, and we'll give you a evaluation on if you're in Division I, Division II, or Division III. At the end of the day, I just want to see kids go to school and live out their dream for the next 4 years.
For all of you guys tuning in, thank you for that. And Jaden Davis at Catawba Ridge, which is up in Fort Mill, South Carolina, he's going to be a major player, and Tori's going to be right there beside him, guiding him as he makes his college decision in a couple of years. But that's going to wrap us up. I appreciate everybody who's subscribed to Gamecocks Now, the newsletter, and who is tuned into this. Thank you so much to Tori Gurley for joining me here, and we'll see how South Carolina plays at Texas A&M this weekend. He's Tori Gurley at torigurley.com. If you've got a kid playing football and want to get him into the college recruiting scene. I'm David Cloninger from the Charleston Post and Courier. We'll talk to you from the Lone Star State. Tori, take care, man. Rock Hill boys.
Go Cox, baby. Rock Hill, baby. Rock Hill, Football City, USA.